Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie Vaughn with Family Fiction's Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast. And on today's episode of the Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast, we have Dani Pettrey, and she's here to talk to us about her new novella called The Shifting Current. Hi, Dani. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, what can you tell me about the book without giving too much away?
Sure. So the shifting current actually kind of came about by readers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was part of my Coastal Guardian series, and it was only supposed to be 3 books, which I finished. And there's this couple, Logan and Emmy, that readers just attached to and wanted to know more about. And so, as the series, I was on the last book, and I was asking my editor, I'm like, readers are asking, readers are asking. He's like, well, we can't have 3 couples in one book, which I understand. So he said, why don't you go ahead and do a novella for him? And so that's really where the story kind of came from.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took it from there. And so it's a story you can read as a sequel to the series. But if you haven't read the series, it does a standalone. The couple, Logan's grandfather, unfortunately, is murdered, and he gets a phone call. And his grandfather lives in New Mexico, and they head out to New Mexico for the case. And so the case is kind of completely separate, just the two of them on it. He goes out, she goes to help him. And so it's kind of their adventure away from the rest of the team, although the team still pops in here and there to check on them. So
Gotcha. So, well, that has to be really gratifying that the fans are asking for more of this
yeah,
certain series.
yeah, it was so exciting to get reader emails and just to have them attached to the characters so much.
Mhm.
And I love them and wanted to tell their story, but I probably wouldn't have got away with it if my readers hadn't kept asking. So I'm really thankful they did.
Yeah, well, that's an important lesson, viewers. If you love a story, continue to tell the author so they can tell their publisher, because the publishers want to know what you're wanting to hear and read. So,
Absolutely,
yeah.
very true.
So, what was your inspiration for setting it in? Like, what wasn't the first series set in North Carolina and then
Yes.
moved it over to New Mexico? So, why change the location completely?
Yes. Oh, great question. So, I actually lived in New Mexico for about
Oh,
7 years, went to
okay.
high school and college there, met my husband there. We're both from the East Coast. We grew up about an hour apart, but we met in New Mexico of all places. And so it has a special place in my heart. I still have family there. And I'm launching a new 4 book series next year, early next year. It takes place in New Mexico. So I thought it was kind of a fun bridge book between the two series, actually, to go out and write one there and then start a new series out there as well.
So, your overreaching theme seems to be about coming to peace with yourself. How does that
Mhm.
play out for Emily and Logan?
Yes. So yes, I think especially with Logan, Logan suffered a tragedy as a child, and he's just never come to peace with that. Never really come to forgive himself, and he kind of thinks he's too far gone for God to forgive him because of what happened. And really, he gets to the point through the story and through the love story of the two, and God working in his heart to realize that nobody's past God's love, and that he was a child at the time. And so yeah, he's finally able to kind of find that like restoration and the peace that you can only get from
Right.
God. So yep. Mm-hmm.
So, what surprised you most about writing this story?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a couple things. I think one, Emmy was a little bolder than I realized she was, and just
Okay.
and just more confident, I think, in some ways than I realized. And that was kind of fun to see her. I don't plot my books, I just write.
Oh,
And
wow.
so seeing her just kind of come to her own, I think, as she's grown throughout the series was really fun. And then writing the series itself, it's been years since we lived in New Mexico. So I did some research, and I couldn't believe like how it's grown or places have changed, or how much I just still needed to like go back and relearn. So that was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, You said that you don't plot your books out, and I've talked to a lot of authors, and I
Mhm.
love hearing their writing process. Tell me a
Mhm.
little bit more about like how do you grab those ideas and run with them?
Sure. So, usually what I do for whatever reason, I tend to start with a job of some sort. Like, oh, I'm really interested in the Coast Guard. What could I write about them? Or I'm really interested in a family that would own an adventure outfitting company. Like, what would that be like? And then once I have the job, I usually think, okay, where would that make sense to be set? Or
Mm-hmm.
is there a place I really, really want to learn about and write about? And then when I have the two of those, I usually will come up with the overarching, some, the grandfather was murdered, or, there was a mass shooting, or there was, in different scenarios. And then I will literally just sit down and start writing. And because I don't plot, it takes me at least 3 drafts to get what is considered my first draft for my publisher. So it's definitely not an easy route. I wish I could plot sometimes because I feel like at least it would save me, hundreds of pages, but that's just not the way God made my brain work. So yeah, I'll sit down and write a first draft that's kind of like 50 pages. It's really little. It's just basic ideas and scenes. And I'll write another one that's like a full book, and then I'll rewrite that whole one, and then that'll be what I turn in first draft. So
And how long does it usually take you to do that?
yeah, so I do a book a year.
Okay.
But then, there's time for line edits and galleys and revisions. So I would say about 9 months for a full book.
Okay.
So about 3 months per draft usually.
No, and I can imagine that's really hard taking things out that you really thought you loved or,
Yeah.
having to make all that link up together.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is, but it's fun, and I enjoy it. I think it would be, if I ever got to the point where I didn't enjoy the process, I don't think that I'd still be writing,
Yeah.
because it's not easy for writers, and they've got to love what they're doing, or
Mhm.
why do it. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
completely understand. So when the reader gets through this book, gets to the last chapter, turns the page, gets to that last period, shuts the book, what do you want them to take away from it?
Oh, that's a great question. I want them just to feel hope. I want them to feel that they are loved by God, and that there's nothing that can take somebody so far from God that he can't reach them or work in their
Mhm.
heart. And that we all can find peace and forgiveness in God.
Okay. And why do you think that storytelling is so important?
Oh, I love storytelling. I love the power of story. Jesus is an example, and God wrote the Bible for us. Jesus
Right.
taught in parables. It's a way to convey things that people are more likely to sit and listen to than, let's say, me preaching at somebody. But
Right.
if I'm telling the story that has a faith element,
Mhm.
what my hope is that they're going to be inspired by that faith element, and that they're going to enjoy that. And at the same time, I think just stories entertain. They give us an escape. They take us to different places. We get to meet new people. And I just think they're just so captivating. It's why I read tons of books myself. So,
So how can people find this book?
so you can just go on my website, danipettrey.com. It's on Amazon. It's at Baker Books. It's on Barnes and Noble. So at your favorite retailers.
Perfect. Perfect. So you did say you teased a little bit about you've got a new series coming out. What can you tell us
Yes.
about that?
Sure. It's called Jeopardy Fall series. And as I said, it's set in New Mexico. It's in a fictional town in northern New Mexico.
Mhm.
And the first book in the series is called One Wrong Move. And I just revealed the cover about a week ago, which I'm very excited about. And it follows a family of private investigators.
Mhm.
So it's fun to go back to writing about a family. I haven't done it since Alaskan Courage. So hoping readers will want to get to know the McLeod family too.
Nice. Well, Dani, thank you so much for spending time with us on the Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast. And everybody, make sure to go and pick up her book. It's out now. And make sure to subscribe below so that you don't miss another chapter.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.